Alrighty dudes, what's up? We're back again with another Mythic boss guide video. This time we have Queen's Court, and Queen's Court is a pretty interesting fight. One of my favorite fights of the instance, pretty much. So as it starts, you're actually going to be DPSing down Silvaz, trying to getting him into execute as quickly as possible, like the 35 to 30% range, and then swapping off onto Pashmar. However, with most people at 65 traits, this is no longer really an issue. Hitting the damage check is more about staying alive and making sure that you're not blowing up sparks at the wrong time than it is getting your Shadow Priests and execute as quickly as possible. Alright, as for essences, we have Condensed Life Force is what you should be taking for your major. Just in general on progression for this fight. You see me playing Visions of Perfection here. This is wrong. I shouldn't be playing Visions of Perfection if I'm playing it for a progression style where I'm getting full duration fight, which is about 7.5-ish minutes. I should be playing Condensed Life Force. However, we do have a pretty short kill time, and Visions of Perfection is pretty good because of that. And as for minors, you should be looking to play Iris and Conflict and Strife. You should only be playing Conflict and Strife and Iris if they are rank 3. If you don't have either one of those rank 3, then Memory of Lucid Dreams or Crucible of Flame are both pretty decent at rank 3 as well. Then as for Azerite, triple streaking and one Arcanic Pulsar is pretty mandatory for balanced Druid in pretty much any situation, Mythic plus, Raid, whatever. Then as for the rest of the traits, Loyal to the End is really good in Raid. Undulating Tides is also pretty solid. Swirling Sands or Blightborn Infusion are both pretty good too. You get those from Mythic plus. But really just make sure that you have triple streaking and one Arcanic, like 100%. So as for talents, we have Nature's Balance. Pretty standard, cut and dry. There's nothing else that you would really take on this row. Wild Charge. Again, maybe you would take Renewal if you feel like you don't want the Wild Charge for the mobility. I feel like the mobility is pretty decent on this fight, though. But you could take Renewal, I guess. There is a use case for that. Restoration Affinity is my go-to. However, you could play Guardian Affinity. I know some people play Guardian Affinity for the passive avoidance that you actually get from the Switch Hitter trait, but I would, in general, play Restoration Affinity. Typhoon. There's nothing on this row that really matters. Star-Lord, I do in fact think Star-Lord is better than Incarnation, contrary to what you actually see on screen here. Again, I was just kind of playing whatever I felt like that week. I personally prefer Incarn, so I played that instead. Twin Moons. So Twin Moons is far superior to Stellar Flare in this situation because you do capped empowerment so much, plus being able to dot the sparks is also very nice. And then Shooting Stars, nothing to really say about that. Moon is bad, and Fury of Loon is bad on this fight. Alrighty, so let's give some a little bit fight-specific information and some fight-specific tips for Balanced Druid on this encounter. So it's a pretty rhythmic fight overall with how the Queen's Decrees end up working out. So as you progress through the fight, you will begin to feel out like when everything should be going on, when you should be looking to target swap to the sparks, how to move around the room, how to soak like the form ranks or whatever else. Just you'll end up getting more into the flow of it as you do more and more pulls onto the fight itself. So another thing is make sure that you soak the form ranks and the charge pretty diligently. Really be on top of that. You actually see me soaking the form ranks here. Charges on Azshara. I could actually walk into that, but I'm going to be a greedy man and just continue DPSing the boss because I see that we have most of our other players inside of it as well. But being diligent about soaking both of those things is pretty important over the course of the whole entire fight. We have Bark Skin on every set of sparks you can. That's a pretty good use case of Bark Skin. Or you have to break a stack of Deferred Sentence at 3. That's the Don't Move debuff. Or Bark Skin whenever you overlap form ranks plus the sparks. So those are really good uses. Queen's Court is a fight that if you use Bark Skin on cooldown, you're probably in good shape just because it ends up mitigating a pretty decent amount of damage over the course of the whole entire fight. This fight is like really spiky, so utilization of your Bark Skin is pretty important, but again, it's better to use it than to not, I think, and especially on this fight. So dotting with Twin Moons was previously broken for repeat performance, but it's fixed now. I don't think this is like a new thing. This is a thing of probably like a month ago. Previously, you couldn't like go Sunfire, Moonfire, Sunfire. Like if you started on Silvaz, you go Sunfire, Moonfire on Silvaz, and you swap to Pashmar, and then you Moonfire him, it would not count the Moonfire, and you would get silenced because of it. So that used to be broken, no longer. So that's fixed. So you need to make sure that you pull AP for sparks. My guild kills the sparks in a clockwise rotation. But regardless of how your guild ends up killing the sparks, you never want to kill the third, or you never want to dot the third spark in the cycle. Otherwise, that's really, really trolling. And the reason for that being is that it actually doesn't need any damage on it. You would prefer the third spark to just time out. So you DPS down the first one, then you dot and hit some priority damage on the second one, and then you just kind of let the third one time out on its own. And then you need to make sure that you don't position yourself inside this banner circle. It's called Sphere of Influence. You need to make sure that you're standing more towards the wall area. You also need to make sure that you drop the charges towards the wall, get the Frenetical Verdict out of the raid, those kind of things. So you actually see the spark is dying first. Eventually I'm going to start dotting. Yeah, so I'm starting to dot this second one here. I'll put a little bit of damage into it as well, just to make sure that it does in fact get as low as it possibly can before it ends up happening. You actually do see the form ranks here that I'm going to be running towards, making sure. I was really slow on those, so I was actually really out of position there. I probably should have popped dash and ran at them, but we're so deep into farm that it doesn't really matter. I also see this, there's this one form ranks that's inside of that charge circle, so I actually do a pretty good job and make up for my major mistake there by getting inside of that one. Overall, Queen's Court is a pretty interesting fight for Balanced Druid. I had pretty insane Visions of Perfection procs on this fight, and actually ended up doing, I think I ended up having like 60% uptime on Incarn. I think whenever this fight ended, it was like rank 3, but I don't think it's rank 3 anymore. So it was a pretty good showing for myself. Oh, dude, the boss is immune for like 5 seconds there. That was suboptimal. There's also the Zealous Eruption. There's also a pretty bad overlap with the Zealous Eruption where you need to do the charge like straight out of it as well. So making sure that you actually pre-move towards the wall during that Zealous and have the boss pre-positioned in a good way is important, but that's more on the tanks than it is on the Moonkin player. So those are just some tips. But overall, that's Queen's Court. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm going to have some content coming up in the next couple of days. I think I'm going to have another Titan Forge podcast episode here tomorrow whenever this actually ends up going up, and then we're going to be doing some more Mythic Plus VOD reviews. We're going to end up getting to Zakul and Queen Azshara eventually as well. So, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you later.